Studios. It's Senator Juan Barnett. He represents Mississippi's Senate District 34 and serves as the chairman, right, of the Corrections Committee.
That's correct, right? Yes.
Yeah. Senator, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. You guys, second day.
Second day.
Down there at the Capitol. Yeah. Nothing too eventful so far, huh? You just gavelled in and talking a bit, getting your legislation ready.
That's
huh?
right. It's fresh back, getting our legs under.
Yeah.
It's like a big football game.
I got you. Well, you should be refreshed and ready to go. It's been 9 months or so since you were taking care of business under the dome, and here you are again.
Well, it's been 9 months, but it's business every day.
I know you guys,
especially with corrections. So it's
okay.
It's every day. There's something that's
sure. Yeah, sure. So, all right. Well, tell us what's on the agenda, and maybe start with what you're considering for your committee, Corrections Committee. Any legislation there?
Well, one thing that I know that we're going to be having is a hearing that's going to involve corrections and Judge B, and we're going to be inviting others over to be part of this hearing. And the hearing is for us to see how well some of the legislation that I've authored and the governor has signed into law in the past 3 years. We want to see exactly how good is working,
okay,
or how good is not working.
Okay,
and to hear from those who have benefited from those different type of programs that we have. And I just think it's real good that we have private individuals to come in to testify or to talk about how they have enjoyed or how they have appreciated the workers who were formerly incarcerated who are now working for them because of certain bills that we passed that allowed them to keep these individuals at work versus having to leave work at inconvenient times to go and see the parole officer and all these type of things. That was just a big hurdle for a lot of them. And a lot of people in the construction industry, they really appreciate that because now they are able to send in a time report to the employer. They drug test them. They make it payroll deductible for any supervision fee. So that person basically is at work for 8 hours. Mm-hmm. And that's what they really like. And they said, when they show up, they go to work, and they don't try to find excuses of why they can't be at work. And so it's been a real big success. And even in the public side, where you got cities and municipalities that are hiring these formerly incarcerated people and how they're showing up and how they're working and all. It just goes to show if you invest a little bit more while they're inside, mm-hmm. then that helps them when they get out. Because I just believe that when they leave the gates of that particular facility, if we hadn't done anything prior to them getting out, when we let them out, it's too late to start working on them then. We need to start working on them while they are still there so that when they get out, they don't come back. So we've had a lot of success on that. I'm just ready to hear from both public, private sectors on how this has benefited the state of Mississippi, and it has definitely helped in a lot of areas where we was finding shortages on having people to go to work. So,
and that's something that I know Commissioner Burl Cain, has been a huge proponent of, is that we don't just want to lock them up and have them serve their time here. If we're not doing something to rehabilitate and get them prepared for life after they're released, we're really not doing our job.
Exactly. If the state of Mississippi is willing to invest money on individuals to come in to train these people, whether it be a diesel mechanic or welder or whatever it is, and once they complete that training and all we do is hand them a certificate and say, here's your sale, mm-hmm. What do we really do? We waste the taxpayers' money. But if we can train these individuals and give them a certificate and let them start employment while they're inside and they're still working, and when they're released, they're still promised a job when they get out. That's how we maximize our dollar. That's how we take care of the taxpayer dollars. It's not just to train the individual and send them back to a cell, but to train them and get them ready so that when they do get out, there's employment.
Yeah, certainly. And I know Sheriff of Rankin County has also had a pretty good program going along with that as well. Are you familiar with that?
He is. Sheriff Bailey and I.
Yeah, Brian Bailey.
Yeah, we work real good together. And,
okay.
And he and I are testimony to each other.
Okay.
Because, at first we thought that we was at odds.
Okay.
On how we wanted to handle criminal justice. And the more we talked, the more we realized that, hey, we want the same thing.
Okay.
And so we join forces with each other, and I helped him get legislation done so that he can have that particular type of a program going in Rankin County, and it has been a huge success.
Yeah, it has.
And now we have more sheriffs that are calling that wanted to do the same thing. At first, these were some of the same ones that said, "Oh no, we can't do this," but they see the benefit of it.
Yeah.
And the community sees the benefit of it. And so it's just been a win-win for all of us on how we handle criminal justice reform. And, you know, Sheriff Bailey and I was talking one day, and we realized that, you know, being tough on crime is not always locking up a person forever.
Yeah.
Because if you take somebody that's used to being incarcerated and you give them 30 years in jail, you put them right where they want to be at.
Mm-hmm.
That's the life they used to.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to be tough on that individual, you say, no, you're just not going to sit here in my prison and do nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what you're going to have to do. That's being tough on crime. This lock them up and throwing away the key approach has never, in my opinion, been what I would deem tough on crime.
Well, and he and Commissioner Kane have shared that same philosophy and made that very clear as well, and it sounds sensible. What about Senator, some of our laws in place that would cause a person to be locked up for an extended period of time, maybe even life, for nonviolent crimes? Is that something we ought to take a look at?
You know, we've already taken a look at that. I passed legislation last year that the governor, year before last, that the governor signed into law for those nonviolent offenders, you know, that was for instance, if someone did a particular crime and it gave them 30 years, well, it didn't matter what the inmate behavior was, what kind of education they done. Regardless of what they did, it was still going to have to be 30 years that you was going to do day for day. Mm-hmm. So we passed a law that on some nonviolent offenses that these individuals would have to do at least 65% of their time, and they would be considered for parole. Okay. So we have taken steps to kind of remedy some of those problems that we've had in the past in regards to nonviolent offenses, and they receive life sentences. And even like on marijuana charges and things like that, you know, back in the day, you know, in the late 80s and 90s, they was giving people, you know, 30 years for simple possession. The same thing now that you get a misdemeanor for. Right. And so when the governor signed that bill into law, you know, there were several hundred people, you know, that immediately walked out of jail because the law was, we had the law, retroactive to go back and reach some of those people who deserve to be out now. Yeah. You know, I'm not advocating for anything like that, but at the same time, you know, we have to realize that, you know, some of these things were just excessive.
Yeah. Well, besides corrections subject matter and issues, what else are you focused on? We just had Representative Robert Johnson on. He says health care is his number one concern in the state.
Health care is definitely one of my major concerns. I think we really need to take a deeper look into Medicaid expansion. Mm-hmm. And I like how Lieutenant Governor has kind of talked about the fact that we want to start with like the working poor, because there are people who work every day, mm-hmm. and you can't necessarily afford insurance, or their employer may not be necessarily, you know, can afford to pay the insurance cost for that individual. But if you got an individual that's working and paying taxes, why not give some type of incentive to that individual so that they can have health care? So that now when they go into the hospitals or the emergency rooms, then the hospitals do not have to absorb 100% of the cost because this person is uninsured. And I think that's one of the problems that while we are facing this type of health care issues, because so many people are uninsured or can't afford the insurance, and the hospitals are having to absorb, you know, all of this debt. So what do you do?
Do you feel like we'll see bills filed in the Senate and in the House, perhaps?
I think
to expand Medicaid?
I think we will. But we really need to, in the state, you know, we really need to take a deeper look at into making sure that we pass some type of legislation where we can expand Medicaid. And I like the example of what Arkansas did. You know, mm-hmm. They did it and it worked. So why can't we do it?
Okay. Louisiana as well. Alabama is not. Tennessee is not. Texas is not. Florida, Georgia. Mainly just a pocket of about, I think, 11 states remain. But we'll be watching for that, Senator. We appreciate you coming on and give us an update, and I'm sure we'll talk more as the session progresses.
Be glad to come back.
Thank you. Senator Juan Barnett represents District 34, chairs the Correction Committee in the Mississippi Senate, has been our guest on Middays. Coming